Hello everyone, back to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's second video, that will take us to the 26th of October. So we're heading into the latter stages of the month now with week to 10 day video update time frame. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles over to around a couple of weeks. And of course, we'll have a look at the CFS V2 at the end of the video. For the next month, beginning with the developments in the tropical Atlantic. So I'll get on that for you very shortly. Just to say that today's first video update was the 5-day forecast. So that's a detailed look at weather for the coming 5 days. Have a look at that and see what's going on in the next 5 days. Of course, this video will touch on that time frame as well, and more about that later in the video. So we have two disturbance areas in the tropical Atlantic at the moment. So we've got this yellow X just here, and then we've got 15 over there. Let's have a look at 15 first of all. So yesterday we said that this might become Tropical Storm Nestor. It might become Tropical Storm Nestor. In fact, it never did become Tropical Storm Nestor. Or what happened is that it just weakened from I think it's the subtropical depression or something that we had yesterday. Anyway, it was 15, and all we have now is the remnants of 15, giving maximum sustained winds of 30 miles an hour with a central pressure of 1,009 millibars, and it's moving northwestwards at 8 miles an hour. If we click on it, we can see what they're saying is about remnants of 15 dissipated at 5 a.m. AST on the 16th of October. And that's when the remains of 15 was in the Cabo Verde Islands. So don't need to worry about that. The next area of interest is this yellow X just here. So if we have a look at what they're saying about that, it's disturbance 1 with a 30% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. They're saying a trough of low pressure located just offshore off the coast of southern Mexico in the Bay of Campeche is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Gradual development is possible, and a tropical or subtropical cyclone could form later this week over the western or central Gulf of Mexico, while the system is moving generally northeastward. An Air Force Reserve reconnaissance aircraft is scheduled to investigate the system later this afternoon, if necessary. So they may have a look at this later this afternoon. It's got a 30% chance, a low chance of becoming a tropical cyclone in the next 2 days, but a 50% chance in the next 5 days. So that could become Tropical Storm Nestor as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. It looks like it's going to sort of move in that kind of direction. As it moves over the warm seas of the Gulf of Mexico, it might develop into a tropical storm. We shall see. Central temperature halfway through the month now, so the CET for October currently is sitting at 11.7. An anomaly of virtually bang on average, 61 to 90, 90.1 of a degree above average. That is provisional up to yesterday, up to the 15th, so halfway through the month now, really. We're going to see this probably ticking down a little bit over the next few days. Going to have some chillier nights coming up, so I imagine by the early part of next week we'll probably see this back into sort of low 11s, that kind of area. And then it's up for grabs, really, where it finishes up. There is a suggestion within some of the model output, and we'll talk about it in a moment, that we might get quite a cold snap through the last week of October. If that was to happen, then we will see a bit of a crash in the CET. We'll probably go under 10 degrees. However, I would suspect a likely finish for the CET from here is going to be somewhere between around 10.1 to 10.9, so somewhere in the 10s is where I'd anticipate we will finish up with the CET for October, which is very close to average. But if we was to get a potent cold snap in the last week of the month, then it might go under 10 degrees and fall down into the 9s. We shall see about that. Right, so these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Manchester. It's a bit cooler now. I was going to say a bit cooler really through the weekend into the start of next week. So that's where our chillier nights are coming in. Daytime temperatures will be about average, I think, but there are going to be some quite chilly nights, particularly over the weekend as the winds fall light. Into next week, briefly, the temperature is lifting up through the early part of next week, and then looks like it's falling away again, although there is a lot of scatter here now for this last week of October. So 1st of November, in fact, is just appearing at the end of the GFS run at the moment, and the GFS ensembles. So most of these ensemble members are going quite cool, really, through this last week of October. There are a few that are going cold, genuinely cold, going below 2 or below -5 at 850 HPA. They are bringing cold northerly winds, probably. We do have these ones up here, on some members up here, that are keeping things a good deal milder, though. So it is quite uncertain what's happening, I think, for the last week of October, but there is still a chance it could turn quite a lot colder. Precipitation-wise, the next few days are going to be dominated by showers, really, up to the weekend, and then things look like we're going to go drier through the early and middle part of next week anyway. We'll probably get 2 or 3 dry days early next week. And then in the last days of October, it looks like the rainfall spikes are coming back again, probably finishing this very unsettled October on really quite a wet note. Temperature anomalies from the 16th to the 24th of October, very close to average, a little bit above average for parts of England, a little bit below average for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. It's not a big deviation either way. Precipitation anomalies from the 16th to the 24th of October, a little bit wetter than average still, down across the far southeast of the country. Most places actually a little bit drier now, so we only get 2 or 3 dry days coming up early next week, and before that, it's a case of showers. So that's how the GFS is looking for Saturday. This is all covered by the 5-day forecast, of course. So Saturday, we've got an area of low pressure over the top of the country, will bring showers or maybe in some longer spells of rain. Winds will be falling lighter, though, so that's where our colder nights are coming from. On Sunday, the low begins to drift into the North Sea. Could bring some rain to eastern Scotland and North East England. Otherwise, Sunday is probably a drier day, probably the driest day of the weekend. A little bit on the cool side, especially early and late. Then early next week, in comes the high pressure. We get this ridge start to build in from the Atlantic, extending to the east of us. That will settle things down through the early part of next week. Watch out for the increasing risk of night fog. And then as we go into the middle part of next week, low pressure is trying to come in from the Atlantic. So there's likely to be quite an active cold front or a occlusive front. It's going to be in that sort of position, trading out into the Atlantic on the southern side of that front, bringing up quite mild air from the south. But on the northern side of the front, we're trying to introduce cold northerly winds. There could be quite a lot of rain along that front through the middle part of next week, but detail is uncertain. Then high pressure begins to reassert itself again on this GFS run as we get to day 10, which is Saturday 26th of October. High pressure is re-establishing to the south, but you'll notice heights are gradually rising all the time up towards Greenland. That is attempting to force the wind into the north. What actually happens in the end with this GFS run is that we do pull down much colder northern winds, but it takes a long while to get there. It's not till Tuesday the 29th of October that this GFS run is introducing a cold north to northeasterly wind, with the high pressure establishing around Iceland and Greenland too. Trough of low pressure sinks to Scandinavia, and that allows this long fetch northerly to sweep down across the UK and the west of Europe. And when we go into the extended range, we keep it cold up to the first day of November. So November starts on a cold note with winds in from the north and northeast. Could be wintry showers in northern and eastern parts of the country, and more significantly probably the first really proper hard night frost of the season, I would have thought, especially for northern parts of the country. So how the GEM is looking, so very similar for Saturday. Low pressure is over top of the country, bringing showers or long spells of rain. That low pressure drifts away to the east, Sunday through to Monday. This ridge builds in from off the Atlantic. That gives us a drier period through the early part of next week, but then low pressure comes in off the Atlantic through the middle part of next week. Again, a fairly active front will be associated with this, probably bringing a lot of heavy rain with it. There's relatively mild air on the southern side of that front, but on the northern side of it, we're trying to introduce much colder northerly winds. The GM does get wind into the north quicker actually than the GFS is showing, so we're in a northerly by day 10, which is Saturday 26th of October. High pressure is centred out to us. It looks like that high pressure is toppling though relatively quickly. So what happens in a toppler situation is that you will go back a couple of days, you will send the high pressure in that sort of direction, send the Azores high northwards essentially, and allow a cold northerly wind to push down over the UK and the west of Europe. But quite quickly, that high pressure will then try to get back to its default position, which is back in the middle of the Atlantic, so it will topple. And as the high pressure sinks south, as it topples southwards, you will begin to allow milder air to roll around the top of that high from the Atlantic. So that's a classic toppler cold snap. And it only lasts a couple of days, and then you go back into milder air, feeding back in over top of the high pressure from the Atlantic. But for a couple of days anyway there, it does go a little bit on the cold side. And then the ECMWF is looking like this. So for Saturday again, we've got low pressure over top of the country bringing showers, and that low pressure clears away to the east as we get through to the beginning of next week. It takes a little bit longer for that low to move away compared to the other two miles, but eventually it does go. And then we're into this ridge building in from the Atlantic, so that gives us a quieter period of weather through the early part of next week before the second half of next week. Again, same idea, low pressure begin to move in from the northwest. Once again, there's probably going to be an active front that's associated with this that will trail all the way out into the Atlantic. On the southern side of the front, relatively mild air. On the northern side of the front, introducing those cold north to northeasterly winds, and along the front, probably quite a lot of heavy rain. What happens with the ECM is that the front moves southwards through the second half of next week, taking no doubt heavy rain with it, and then developing into this rather bizarre looking area of low pressure. No other model is doing this, but I suppose what's going on there is that the front is stalling. So go back to Friday. This is Friday 25th of October. Again, an active front is through here, marking the boundary between the cold air to the north and the milder air from the south. Now that low pressure comes southwards, but as it does so, it stalls, and an area of low pressure, I should say whether it comes southwards, as it does so, an area of low pressure develops along the front. And that's how we look at day 10. These kind of situations can be real snowmakers in the winter. When you get like a stalling occlusion and then it develops an area of low pressure, usually a triple point low. So with a triple point low, you will have, let's get rid of that. For a triple point low, you will have a warmer sector, and a colder sector, and then an occluded front in that sort of position. And usually the wintriest weather in winter will occur on the point of the triple point weather free weather it's a meeting. Now it's only October, so there's barely going to be any snow. That might be a little bit over Pennines and Welsh Mountains if the air was cold enough. But really it would just be a lot of heavy rain. To the north of it, we are introducing colder air though. These are the upper air temperatures. So you see they're relatively mild for England and Wales, although it would be a pretty cold, wet day, I suppose. But the proper cold Arctic air is sitting to the north of Scotland. So that's like the wettest solution of the three, and as such it does take a while to move those cold northern winds in. If we could roll another day, we'd probably find that low pressure clearing away into France or over into the North Sea, and I suspect we would introduce those cold northerly winds if we could go on any further. These are the options that are on the table today within the ECM ensembles at day 10, which is the 26th of October. So we have 15 members of the ECM ensembles, including the ECM control run that has a mid-Atlantic ridge heading up towards Greenland and a deep area of deep trough of low pressure in the 500 millibar flow to our east, and consequently that's going to be pulling down cold air from the north, so cold northerly winds with that. Then we have 14 that have this deep trough of low pressure, possibly even developing an area of low pressure over top of the UK, as it does include the operational ECM run That's the run we're just looking at, of course, that developed that low by day 10 over England and Wales with a mid-Atlantic ridge. So again, we're trying to introduce cold air with that, but with the development of the low pressure, the cold air does get held up and potentially produces a lot of rain. 14 members of the eastern ensembles with a mid-Atlantic ridge going up to Greenland, low pressure towards Scandinavia. That's a drier solution and a little bit more Atlantic based with the air. And then 8 again with high pressure out to west of us and going up towards Greenland as well, top of low pressure to our east. They're going to be mainly dry but quite chilly. Winds will still be coming in from a northwesterly direction, so going to be quite chilly with those, but mainly dry. It does look as though day 10 is likely to be turning colder and more unsettled overall. These are the options we've got for 2 weeks' time, which gets us to the 31st of October, actually Halloween, 360 hours away. So we have 16 members of the eastern ensembles with a mid-Atlantic ridge and low pressure to the east-northeast. They're going to be cold and unsettled. Another 15 just here, again with mid-Atlantic ridge, trough of low pressure to our south and east. They're going to be bringing in quite cold north to northeasterlies. 11, including the ECM control run with high pressure to the north of Scotland. That's going to be a drier solution, but not particularly warm. In fact, could be quite cold with those, bringing winds around from the northeast. And then we have 9 with above average heights between Iceland and Scandinavia, below average heights out to west. And they're probably bringing in more of an east-southeasterly flow. Could be a bit more unsettled and a milder option, perhaps, with those. It does look as though this could be a rather cold end to October, as we were saying in yesterday's video. But what about the CFS V2? Because yesterday that wasn't interested at all in colder weather for the end of October. Let's have a look at it today. So it's at 500 millibar heights, breaking down to week periods. The first week period takes us from the 16th to 22nd of October. The coming week is still unsettled with low pressure close to the UK, more or less over top of the UK actually, a ridge in the Atlantic. Jet stream's doing something a bit like that, so quite cool and showery in the next few days. Then we go through to week 2, which is the 23rd, 29th of October, when the shorter range models are hinting at the chance of a cold snap. CFS is still saying no to that. It still has above average heights over the UK, out into the Atlantic, below average heights are up here. It is close to bringing in some cooler air or some colder air from the north or northwest, but overall we're still under that ridge of high pressure. So any cold northerlies are probably going down into Scandinavia. With that. Week 3 then has the above average heights sort of over to the north country. This is the 30th of October to the 5th of November. Winds are coming in from the east with that. That could be a little bit cooler through the early part of November, certainly enough night frost. And then week 4 is the 6th to the 12th of November, and the above average heights then going down towards Spain and Portugal. Below average heights are establishing around Greenland, and that's just reintroducing like a west-southwesterly flow. Probably increasingly unsettled as we head up towards the middle part of November, but also becoming milder as well. So it looks as though the next few days we're going to get a drier interlude early next week. Then the second half of next week it starts to get quite complicated. We will be bringing in a weather system from the northwest, I think, and that's going to try and introduce colder air from the north. How successful it is in producing colder air from the north remains to be seen. And how much rain we get with that is also up for grabs. It could be it's a relatively weak front. The ECM really does develop it into a major sort of rain event by the end of next week. So that's all to be determined. And then, of course, beyond that, do we go into those cold northerly winds for like the last 5 or 4 days of the month, and then lasting into the beginning of November? That's what we're going to be talking about in videos, I would have thought, in the next few days. Right, that's it for your videos for today. So we'll be back tomorrow with another look at weather the next week, 10 days and beyond. And, of course, we'll be trying to work out what's going to happen in terms of this potential cold snap anyway, late in October. Don't forget to check out 5D Forecast if you haven't yet done so. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.